This weekend in New Zealand is a long weekend. It's a Labour Day holiday on Monday. Today's actually Friday, but I took an extra day off to have an extra long weekend, and I've been doing a job on the Velocette I've been putting off for months and months and months. I was feeling a little bit, what's the word, dejected, or lost enthusiasm with all the trouble with the crank there. It is all solvable. There are ways to do it. What I'm going to do is I've started doing my giant list of parts that I need. I'm using the parts book I got from the National Motorcycle Museum, and this is the one that matches my bike, I think. It seems very close so far. I think this bike is a bitzer. This engine seems a bit later than some of the other bits of the bike, but everything in the engine and gearbox parts matches what I've got, so that's good. And I've been using my little tablet here because I can then blow up the parts diagram and actually see things. It's a little bit trickier trying to do it from the printouts. So I've got pages and pages and pages of things I need to get, and what I will do is talk to the spares people in the club and see what they suggest I do. So the main problems I've got are the crank. I think if I can get new collars that pins run on, these are actually removable. I could either remove these ones and have them ground down and then fit oversized bushes, or I think you can get these from the club, in which case I can remove the old ones, fit the new ones, and get the big ends machined to suit, because I can't machine these myself. They won't fit on my lathe, it's too small. Of course, while I'm doing all of that, I would replace the worn thrust washer, things like that. And I've just realized there's another part in here I think I need to make sure I've got, which is a dowel pin, and I'll check that. So I'm going through and actually checking things off as I go. I've been cleaning up parts as I go as well. So there's an awful lot of 2BA nuts on this bike. Whole thing's held together with the things. You can see around the sump, the top of the gearbox cover, millions and millions of these. I think I've got all of the nuts, or most of the nuts. I'm missing all of the lock washers. So it's like somebody took it apart and put it back together without those. Pistons, it's going to depend on what I do with these cylinder barrels, because these ones are so deeply scored that I'm not sure they're usable. It's probably better to get good second-hand ones. Again, I'll see what the club says. I did think I would need a new sump pan, because this one was really bent up and beaten up. You can see all the scratches on it, but these are actually really solid metal, so I was able to hammer it out, got it reasonably good. I think that's good enough to use. Obviously cleaned all the paint off. I've been cleaning up all of the oil pipes. I took apart and cleaned the oil pump. I do want to see if I can get new strainer material on here, because this one's actually worn out, so it's worn through there, so the mesh is coming apart, and obviously you don't want wire mesh floating around inside your engine. I'll need a new oil filter element. I'll need a new, this is the center tube that goes up the middle of the filter, and you can see that's actually rusted through, which is unusual for an oil filter. There's bits of gasket and stuff everywhere. And you can see I've been cleaning up the studs, cleaning up the threads where I need to, cleaning up all the nuts, basically putting them back on so I know what I'm missing. Seemed like the best way to do it. I'm going to need new oil seals. Luckily, all of the main bearings are in really good shape. It's just the big ends and the little ends that were gone. So that's kind of where I'm at with this Velocette at the moment. It's taken all day. It's nearly 5:30. I think I came out here at about 8:30 this morning, and I've been basically doing this all day, sorting out the parts, making sure things are clean, figuring out what I need. The ignition is going to be interesting because I think I'm missing quite a lot there. These are all ignition parts. This is a very worn out clutch basket, so I won't be using that one. I've got a steel one. And then I'll need to go through some of these other parts as well to see. Let's put that over here. Boxes of parts everywhere. I have to remember what I was doing with that bevel final drive. There was something I still had to do that involved Loctite to get it reset up. So I need to go back to this and make sure this is okay. Hopefully the club has all new suspension bushes because I'll need those. I need to start looking at the frame has all been cleaned. Some of it's been primed, just the edge primer, just to stop it rusting, but not all of it. Radiator's good, springs are all good, the seat's okay. Petrol tank's good. I will need new muffler, exhaust pipes, all sorts of bits and pieces. But, it's getting there. It would be nice to get the engine rebuilt and sort of ready to go. Stripping apart engines is reasonably fun. Cleaning up the parts is not fun. Putting them back together with clean parts is really good fun, and really satisfying when it actually works at the end and the engine fires. It's one of the cool things about building cars and motorbikes, I think. Nothing on the Riley today. That'll be the rest of the weekend after I sort all of this mess out. And then there's all sorts of other little bits and pieces. So there's leg shields and speedo cable and clutch cable and throttle cable, and the carburetor needs the right jets, and it's just lots and lots and lots of parts. But yeah, having the parts book definitely makes it easier, and having the tablet so you can actually properly zoom in on things to see what the parts are really helps. 7 and 8 studs, and it mentions dowels which are in here, but the ones I'm looking for are there, number 11, gearbox housing dowel. So I'm missing one of those, I think, so I will add those to my list. This is the leftover nuts and bolts and washers. Well, it was the leftover nuts and bolts and washers. These are drain plugs for the head, cylinder heads. And you can see what I mean about the wrong washers. There's one of the correct, it's actually a correct type of lock washer, I think. They're sort of those spring washers with the sort of teeth on the inside. I did need another one of those somewhere. I was missing one for something and I can't remember what. All these parts are now in the boxes. Was it that? No, it's gearbox. Somewhere. But I'll order extra ones of those from the club anyway. And because I've been cleaning up parts, I've been making good use of my sink, the ultrasonic cleaner. That was the container the oil pump was in, so I need to clean the container. The parts washer, that's been very handy, and yeah, just lots of scrubbing. And this is phosphoric acid to help remove rust off steel parts. Yeah, very, very handy. The next morning, I'm still going through the Velocette parts, and I had a look on the website to see what parts are available, and I think I've got an idea for these cylinder barrels, because if I can use these, it's going to be much better for me. I don't have to get them shipped from the UK because of course they're heavy, and and it is probably possible to get them sleeved here in cast iron and then bored out, but I think according to the website you can get 40 thou over pistons, 40 thou being 1mm. And I've measured the bore of these are standard bore, and I'm trying to figure out, it's probably hard to see on the camera's not good at picking up the fine details, but there's big score marks on these, and there's pitting around the top. So I was trying to figure out if boring this out to plus 40 will get rid of all of those marks. And I don't know how you figure that out exactly, but the method I've come up with is I went through my collection of spring wire. I've only got a few little bits, short bits and pieces, but I have some wire there that is exactly 0.5 millimeter in diameter. That's this stuff. And I did try measuring it, you know, with the bore gauges and things. I tried measuring it with this in there as a kind of a known amount to add or subtract to the measurement you get from this, but it's pretty hard to do because the ends of these are curved, so it's hard to get it to sit on top of the wire. And then in the end I figured out, well, if I just lay the wire in that groove, it's pretty hard to know if it's touching the bottom of the groove, but they're quite wide. They're wider than the wire, so they should be. And then just hold it up to the light, and I should be able to see how much of that wire is sticking up above the surface of the bore. And if this gets bored out plus 40, that's 0.5 millimeter taken out from the radius, because the plus 40 is the diameter, so it'll machine away 0.5 millimeter all the way around. So theoretically, if that wire dropped completely into that groove and was below the surface, then taking out 0.5 millimeter won't get the bottom of the groove, if that makes sense. So it actually sticks up a lot further than I thought. Those grooves are probably 0.1, 0.2 of a millimeter deep, so boring this out should, in theory, clean it up. That's what I'm hoping. So I'll still talk to the spares people about what is best to do here. But if I can get away with plus 40 pistons and new rings, that would be awesome, because I should be able to, I think any good machine shop should be able to bore and hone these for me. And there's a good engineering shop in Levin, which is 20-30 minutes drive away from here. That's who I use to do the lightning on the flywheel, I believe. And they did the lightning and all the balancing of the engine for me. Pretty sure they would be able to do this. So that's my plan. I've just fired up the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm going to put these through that with some washing soda, which should help just degrease them, get these nice and clean. So I'll try and get them as clean as I can, and then I may try remeasuring this. I don't know how a machine shop would measure that. There must be a way that they can actually measure the depth of those imperfections in there. I'm trying to think of different ways I could do it. Maybe they have some sort of like those inside dividers, but with pointy ends, so you can actually sit it in that groove. The other thing I might try is if I could take a mold of that with something, maybe hot glue. If I put some hot glue in there, let it form the shape of those grooves, then I can peel that off and measure the height, because of course you'll get the negative pattern, the height of that groove. Maybe I'll try that. There's no harm in trying that. And see if that gives me a way of measuring how much needs to be taken away to clean up the bores. I might just ring the machine shop next week and ask them how they would do it and find out. So I'm going to keep going through, figuring out all the parts I need, I have started building my spreadsheet. The spreadsheet's a really good idea because the way this manual is laid out is it's in different assembly sections, and you'll find the same parts used in different sections. So you'll see the same part number, but it'll be under the gearbox section or under the engine section. You know, it's very noticeable for things like nuts and bolts and lock washers. So I can go through section by section as per the manual, and then in the spreadsheet you could just reorganize it to be based on part number, so I can get the totals of the number of parts I need. I really like spreadsheets. I'd actually gone inside to upload a film of what I've been doing today and yesterday, and realized the last thing I filmed wasn't actually filmed, so I have to redo it. I need to try and figure out where I was at. It's Saturday today, so actual weekend day, and I've been busy on the Velocette again. I'm still going through all the parts, making the list of the things I need to order from the spares, and pulled out things, figured out what I've got. I had to go back and look at one of my old films to figure out where I was at with the bevel drive, and I remembered the problem. So the muff coupling on the drive shaft that links the drive shaft that's in here to the pinion, they're supposed to be fixed on this year of machine. Mine was loose and there was a lot of wear on the splines. What I ended up doing was, you have to take this apart to get that drive shaft out. It won't pull out that way, it gets too narrow here, and the muff coupling won't go through that gap. So took it apart, took the shaft and the muff coupler apart, and I ended up setting up the shaft on my lathe here between centers and measuring the run out in the middle of the shaft, and it turns out the shaft was bent. I was getting 35 thou run out in the middle of the shaft, which is a lot. So I ended up using my press there to get the shaft as straight as I could. I got it down to 2 thou run out. Trying to get more than that was a bit tricky because the middle of the shaft isn't really machined, so it's not a smooth surface. It's hard to get a decent reading on it anyway, but I got it as good as I could, and then I reattached the muff coupler, and I used some Loctite 660. So this is specifically for things like this, where you've got worn out splines or bearings that don't fit, that kind of thing. So I pressed on the muff coupler with the Loctite, and I think that should be fine. Ideally it should be a press fit on the pinion shaft as well, but because mine is all completely worn out, what I've done for now, and this isn't the right thing to do, but it'll work for now, is reassembled it with a lot of grease in there. And this should be enough that the drive will work and it's not too off center, so it'll be good enough to ride the bike around the garden, basically. That's all I need to do. I just want to get it running, and then I can look at fixing it properly later on. So I think if we turn the shaft, it's driving the rear end, which is what it needs to do. So I think for now that'll be fine, even though that's not exactly right. I've been sorting through all of the different bits and pieces, and I went through the ignition system. I've cleaned up the cover. I'm missing the high tension coils. The low tension is all there. That all seems to be working okay, I guess. I can measure it with my multimeter. It looks like the coils are fine. There's still some magnetism in the flywheel, so hopefully that'll work. The front cover was all covered in horrible red paint, and where it bolts down was very mangled. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be flush or not, if there's meant to be a little step there, but these were so beaten up. I just hammered it as smooth as I could get it and cleaned it up, got rid of all the red paint. So I think this will work. This is a Miller AC4 type. I'm not sure if these are 6 volt or 12 volt. I need to figure that out. I've gone through, I've put the nuts on all the studs where they need to fit, and I've been finding various other little bits and pieces I've forgotten I'd got. So this is actually the battery tie down plate. So that goes on there, not in there. And I think I now have a good list of all of the sort of parts I need, all the things I need to find or get from the spares. The only part I haven't figured out is this one. It's a little shoulder bolt. I'm not sure where it goes, and yeah, it's a little confusing. I think it might be part of the ignition system. I thought it might be something to go in the end of the crank there, but no, it doesn't seem to be. So that's where all of these parts are at. The cylinder heads, rather the cylinders, not the cylinder heads, I put them through the ultrasonic cleaner for a couple of hours. The timer on the cleaner only goes for 30 minutes, and then I usually give it a bit of time to cool down rather than just restarting it. So I put it through that about 4 times, and these have cleaned up really well. I was using a solution of washing soda in the ultrasonic. That seems to work fairly well. So a couple of hours through there, and then I rinse them off in the parts washer. This has been really handy. So I think this weekend is probably the most use I've got out of this, and it's been really good. I notice it's already rusting, which is annoying, but it's kind of what you'd expect from a cheap machine like this. So put it through there. This is a tub of phosphoric acid. This is my Metal Bright metal protector stuff, which also dissolves the rust. I put them in there for a little bit and then completely rinsed them off. Got them very clean, and now they're sitting in Evaporust, which will get rid of the last of the rust on the inside, hopefully. But you can see they've come up really well. The front brake back plate is also sitting in there underneath those. So what I'm hoping is, I did actually try the test with hot glue. So I don't know how much of this will show up on the camera. I squirted hot melt glue into the cylinders, and that did give me an impression of the sort of score marks in there, and I'm pretty sure those are less than 0.5 millimeter. So I did my trick with the wire. There's a little wire, probably can't even see that, but I'm pretty sure the gouges in the cylinder walls are less than 0.5 millimeter diameter, or depth rather. So I should be able to get those cylinders bored out plus 40 thou, which is 1 millimeter, and you can get oversized pistons to fit. So what I'm hoping is once those cylinders are machined out, with the oversized pistons, it'll all be nice and clean, and it should work fine. I do still need to clean up the valve gear and the tappets and the valve springs and all that kind of thing. From memory, they all fitted pretty nicely, so I think I can reuse those. I've been putting everything into boxes, labeling them. I also cleaned up my shelf there where there were parts, so I've got a lot of space now. I can start putting all these things back onto the shelf, and then I've built my spreadsheet which has all the parts I need to order from the UK. I'll talk to them about the best things to do, and then I can start hopefully putting this thing back together. Obviously I need to prime and paint the frame. The way the Velocette works is the actual engine and rear drive all kind of sit separately. So you can see I'd already etch primed some of these parts. I need to do the rest. It's just not good weather for painting at the moment, but it's coming along. Like I say, I got a bit annoyed at it, I guess, with the crank being worn, but that's all fixable. There's ways to do that. I'll see if the spares have new collars, in which case I can take those off the crank pins and fit new ones, and then get the conrods machined, the big ends machined to fit. I think that'll be the way to go. But what I've got is cleaning up nicely. The main bearings for everything are good, which is why I want to keep using this crank if I can, because all of these fit perfectly. There's no wear. It's just the big ends that are worn. So that's where we're at with this now. I think I've spent 2 days on that, and I think tomorrow we'll be cleaning up the mess, taking the cylinders out of the evaporust obviously and just washing them off, and then spraying them with WD-40 or some other oil just to stop them rusting again, and then back on the Riley.